I don't have much nostalgia for the DS or 3DS. I never owned them as a kid. Bought a 3DS as an adult, but barely touched it. It was overshadowed by my Switch at that point. When AYN announced the Thor with dual OLED screens, I was immediately intrigued at the prospect of a more premium 3DS experience. I've had the Thor for about 2 weeks, and today I want to discuss what the dual screen experience is like, how does this compare to my favorite handhelds, the Odin 2 Portal and the Flip 2, and who I think this device is for. The first thing I want to talk about is the dual screen experience. A lot of reviewers talk about how the bottom screen can be used for multitasking, having a game on top and a guide on the bottom, just for the DS and 3DS menus, and then maybe watching a YouTube video or even having a second game. To me, before I got the Thor, this was something that I didn't think I would necessarily be that into. I just didn't think I would want to be kind of distracted with two tasks at once. In the last couple weeks, I've actually been using the bottom screen for multitasking a lot more than I thought, and I find it completely readable. It is crisp. I actually like the experience a lot. I was concerned that the bottom screen would be too small. I even was debating, going with the AYN Pocket DS for this reason, and after spending some more time with this, one of my favorite use cases of the bottom screen is to look up emulator settings. For example, using EmuReady to look at settings for Odin while I have a Switch game on top, or while I'm playing retro games, I'll often have a Retro Game Corps guide on the bottom. Maybe I'm trying to figure out the best aspect ratio for a system. And then I'll even use Google Search and Google AI to find quick answers to in-game questions. And I would have normally done this with a phone, but this way it's just all on the same device and I can quickly switch back to my game. And then another one of my favorite use cases for the bottom screen is I love playing, Gen 1 through 3 Pokemon games, fan remakes, and ROM hacks. Problem is, I like to play them on fast forward, which distorts the audio. And for the most part, I just turn the audio off or listen to music. But now what I can do is I can have a YouTube video on the bottom screen so I can listen to a podcast, or what I've been doing is just putting a Pokemon soundtrack on bottom from the same game. So it kind of still increases the immersion, but I can play that game sped up. So I'm not going to do a thorough emulation testing of 3DS and NDS, but from what I've seen, this device can handle most games. If you have an issue, you can change the settings, use a different emulator. I've been running these at 8x for DS and 4x for 3DS, and pretty much they've been working great. I'm really excited to play the Pokemon games I never got a chance to play. I'm looking to play through the Dragon Quest series, and I don't have much nostalgia for these. I think that Nintendo is just in the cultural zeitgeist at this point. There's something fun about the design of the dual screen handheld. So far, these games have just been a joy. The dual screen really look nice. They play really well. Obviously, I can't speak too well for like a 3DS or a Nintendo DS purist. I'm not going to say that it's better or it's the same. As someone who hasn't played too much of those systems, I'm finding these experiences to be really nice. I don't think it's life-changing. A lot of the times the games don't do too much with the bottom screen. It'll be like menus, little extra content that isn't revolutionary, but I do think this device is premium. When I'm trying out these 3DS and DS games, I really have an experience. It feels pretty cohesive. So like I said, if you're someone who grew up playing all of these games, I don't know if it's going to be replacing that for you, but from my perspective, I think that most people are going to be more than happy with this. I'm certainly excited to play a lot of these dual screen games that I haven't, and I have no qualms. I could just use this to simply play dual screen games and I would be happy. So one of my favorite parts about the device is the build quality and the design. I think it's designed really nicely. It's aesthetic. It feels premium. I love the white model, even with black bars on the bottom with 3DS games. I think it looks fine. Sometimes I'll stretch it out so I don't even have those black bars. The screens are excellent, good color, clarity. So in terms of ergonomics, it's relatively lightweight. I like the buttons, the sticks, the D-pad. I do not think this is as comfortable as something like a horizontal handheld, the Odin 2 Portal, the original Odin 2. It's just not. I really dislike the triggers. So both the R1L1, R2L2, they remind me of the Flip 2 triggers, and it's fine. They work well, but I'm used to something like the Odin 2 Portal. I love pushing those big chunky triggers. I do not get any satisfaction from the Thor triggers. For lightweight stuff like retro games, 2D games, I don't really mind the ergonomics of the Thor. I do find that it's a little bit crampy. I kind of adjust my hands in a way to offset that. For 3D games, shooters, I really think that the grip makes a big difference. With the Odin 2 Portal, I'll get by a lot of the times without the grip, even for those types of higher end titles. I find that the grip on the Odin 2 Portal adds a little bit of weight. I don't really feel that way with the Thor. I just think that for higher end emulation, I've only been using the grip for a couple days, and it's going to be hard for me to go back to no grip. I think it just puts your hands in a more comfortable position that is less crampy and allows you to kind of hit those buttons and triggers more naturally. So the next thing I want to go into is, how do I think the Thor is going to fit into my handheld rotation? So right now when I'm at home, I like to use the Odin 2 Portal for most of my gaming. And then on the go, I like the Retroid Pocket Flip 2. While I do think that the Thor is versatile and I think it could be used as an all-around device, I don't think that I'm going to be retiring my Odin 2 Portal for the Thor. I like that bigger screen and I like the ergonomics of the horizontal much better. And in terms of ergonomics, I don't necessarily think that the Thor is much less comfortable than the Flip 2. I've tried to go back and forth playing the Thor, playing the Flip 2, and it's one of those things for me that I don't really notice too much of a difference once I switch devices. The slightly larger size and weight of the Thor does mean it's not as portable as the Flip 2. I haven't had enough time with it yet though to decide if those things are gonna make it a little more prohibitive in terms of on-the-go gaming than the Flip 2. I think it's gonna be a little subjective and also come down to what type of games you wanna be playing on the go, whether you're willing to sacrifice a little bit of portability for that dual screen and extra power. Now I just wanna do a quick comparison of the Thor screen with the Odin 2 Portal screen, and then I'll show the RP Flip 2 screen. From the videos I took, it's kind of difficult to really tell any differences in screen brightness, but you'll get an idea of the different screen sizes. So the Thor and the Portal have 120Hz 1080p AMOLED displays. The Portal is 7 inches, the Thor is 6 inches, and then the RP Flip 2 has a 5.5 inch AMOLED 60Hz display. In person, I can really only tell that at max brightness, the RP Flip 2 is a little less bright than the Thor. It appears like the Flip 2 has a more saturated screen. All the colors look deeper. I don't know if that's really coming across in the video, but I can tell in person, and I do kind of prefer the more saturated look of the Flip 2 screen. That being said, I can also notice that the Thor screen is brighter, especially when the two are side by side. Now I just want to show some quick comparisons of the Flip 2 and the Thor side by side playing the same games. So first we'll look at Mario Kart Double Dash on the GameCube, then we'll look at Super Mario 3D Land, and then lastly Fire Red on the GBA. Again, just to kind of get a feel for what does it look like playing those devices with the same game. So now I'm going to let the gameplay footage play. It's about 2 minutes long. So I hope this comparison has been helpful. Please let me know if you have any questions, or let me know if you want to see anything specific tested in the future. I just wanted to show that, yeah, for a lot of emulation, you're going to be getting a pretty similar experience between the Flip 2 and the Thor. And that's even the case for 3DS games like we saw Super Mario 3D Land, which don't really require that bottom screen. I haven't touched upon the Thor's dual screen Android software experience, and I just want to say that overall it's been pretty seamless and it takes a little bit getting used to. But this AYN button on the bottom, which lets you pull up tabs to look at like temperature, FPS, quick settings you might want to change, and then the mode tab, which allows you to change the brightness of one or both of the screens as well as the audio, is quite useful. In practice, I use that mode tab a lot just to change, maybe dim the bottom screen and audio and vice versa, stuff like that. Overall, I really like how they've implemented this, and I'm liking the software so far. So as the top screen can be set to 120 Hz, one downside of the device is that the bottom screen at 60 Hz will experience stutters. You can see that the text becomes distorted when I scroll, and this will be ameliorated if I set the top screen to 60 Hz. So for things like 3DS or DS, I'm often setting the top at 60 Hz to maintain a smooth display on the bottom. When I want to do higher end stuff, this isn't a huge deal to me, but if you think you might be sensitive to that, keep in mind that this is a drawback of this device. So now that I've used the device for a couple weeks, I just want to give my thoughts on who I think is going to like this device. I think that the majority of people are going to find this to be a really awesome device to use for DS and 3DS emulation. Well, this might not replace everyone's DS and 3DS. I think that the experience, especially with those dual OLED screens and the great design quality, makes these systems a real joy on this device. I do think that this is a great all-around device. It's got the power of the Odin 2 line of devices, and it's got more or less the portability of the Flip 2. I still think that the Flip 2 is more portable, but in terms of one device that you can use to do anything from low to high-end emulation, game streaming, multitasking, all this versatility, I think that this is a really good option. Now, my use case is as a portable companion to the Odin 2 portal. I like to have a bigger at-home device, maybe something like the Steam Deck or the Odin 2 portal, and then for something on the go, something smaller like the Flip 2 or the Thor. So I think that in this use case, yeah, this is a great portable device. I don't necessarily think it's going to be replacing the Flip 2 for everyone, but again, I do think this is a good option to think about if you want something that's a little less portable, but still very portable with that clamshell form factor. And then, you can also play those higher end systems and the dual screen and multitasking all in one. Just to wrap up here, after using this device for a couple weeks, what are the things that have really stuck out in a positive way for me, and what are some of the things I don't like as much? I will say that overall, I think that the pros vastly outweigh the cons, and I think that contributes to why so many people are currently excited about this device. Number one is the design, just the build quality, the aesthetic, how the dual screen looks. It looks like a futuristic Nintendo 3DS. I think that the design is cohesive, and in terms of those screens, I think they're beautiful. The dual OLED really is something that you have to see to appreciate. The bottom screen seems like it just melds into the base, and so I just couldn't be happier actually seeing how nice those screens look on this form factor and build. The versatility, you can play all emulation that the Odin 2 line could play, but then really good DS and 3DS emulation due to the dual screens. In the beginning, I kind of thought the dual screen multitask feature was going to be more of a gimmick than in reality. I actually use it all the time. I use that bottom screen to do other things. And, people can say that, but until you experience it, at least for me, it's something that I do enjoy. And then lastly, there's just, I don't know if it's because it looks like a Nintendo device, a 3DS, or if it's just the fact that you have two screens. Obviously that's going to be fun in and of itself. This is just a fun device, a combination between the build quality, the dual screen nature, the fact that it is cohesive, It's just fun to use. For me, the really only big downside are the ergonomics, and this is due to the fact that it's a clamshell. The Flip 2 isn't the most comfortable device, but the Flip 2 is also a little bit lighter, and I'm usually playing games that don't really require the sticks and the triggers for the Flip 2, so I find it to be a pretty enjoyable experience. Whereas on the Thor, I am playing higher end games and things that do require the sticks and the triggers, and I don't really like the triggers and the ergonomics. The device tends to kind of dig into the palms of my hands, and then it also gets kind of crampy. These are fixed for the most part with the grip. I still don't think it's as comfortable as something like the Odin 2 Portal or a horizontal handheld, but right out of the box, the ergonomics aren't great. Now, the next two cons are not a huge deal to me, but I just wanted to point out that they do exist. So the tearing that occurs when the top screen is set to 120 Hertz on the bottom screen, it is definitely visible. I think it's more visible in person. And then also the device can get hot at times, especially on the right side. And it's even made my hands sweat. Now, this doesn't always happen, and I haven't done a thorough test of when this happens, but I would say that there's a percentage of the time where it will get noticeably hot. Now, the grip will make up for this, and this isn't something that I mind enough for it to really be a deal breaker, but if you're sensitive to something like that, keep that in mind. In conclusion, the Thor was a device I was really excited to test out. I loved the RP Flip 2, and the prospect of getting a similar form factor dual screen to play DS and 3DS games I haven't really experienced is really exciting to me. And I have to say that overall I've been pretty excited in the last couple weeks playing this device. It just has this kind of undescribable fun factor. Again, the screens, the design, the versatility, it's been pretty great so far. So thanks for watching the video, and then I'm happy to take any comments or questions or suggestions about other things you'd like to see or hear about.